All right, welcome to Sukkot 2023. Since this is mostly regulars, let me just ask a question. What is Sukkot? What is it?
Celebration of booths.
Celebration of booths, okay. What else? God's provision. Well, that would be the why question. Why do we celebrate? We celebrate for God's provision. Okay, what else?
Remember that the booths are a representation of the booths that were potential people have to live in Israel.
Okay. Anything else?
And then also celebration of harvest of fruits that they bring in.
Okay, the fall harvest. Okay. Let's turn to read a couple passages here. Leviticus 23:34. Who wants to read that? This is the commandment that tells us to do this. 23:34. Who's got it? Oh, it's already up there. Read it out loud, Bruce.
Tell the people of Israel on the 15th day of the 7th month, the feast of Sukkot, for 7 days.
Excellent. So that is the commandment. For 7 days, we're supposed to celebrate this. And over the years, we've taught this multiple different angles, but the last couple of years, we learned that this holiday was actually connected to a different holiday. Do we remember what that holiday was? That's a question mark. Passover. Anybody else? All right. Somebody read 23, 42, and 43, please. Scroll up a little bit. 42, 23, 42, and 43.
Okay, live in temporary shelters for 7 days. All native-born Israelites are to live in such shelters so your descendants will know that I have the Israelites live in temporary shelters when I brought them back to Egypt. I am the Lord God.
Interesting. Okay, so these temporary shelters is what an interesting way to translate that. Was there a different translation? Others say booths. Others say sukkah, right? And so the whole idea of Sukkot is that they're going to live in this sukkah for 7 days. And it's supposed to represent something. So one of the things that we thought we would do is we would actually build a sukkah while we're trying to teach on this. And so I have Aaron and Mr. Bruce who have started already, but they're going to start putting this together. You started already?
It's not going to jump together.
Well, come up here and start building this.
We're going to get some others, right?
Who wants to help?
Who wants to help?
Who wants to help?
Yeah. You have to be.
Where's Daniel? Daniel's not in here.
We're getting going, but I didn't slack to help.
Come on. You can tag somebody out. I know Nora wants to come up at some point.
Mr. Bruce needs help with the heavy lifting.
The heavy lifting. You can get tagged in. We'll start with a couple and then we'll tag you back in. How about that? I'm sorry? Right, to build a sukkah. It's a bad blonde joke. Here we go. All right, so they're going to be building while we're going to be talking. And so this is kind of like one of those to see how well you can watch and listen all at the same time. And so one of the things that we had researched, and one of the things I was researching this week, was that it says that we're supposed to create these sukkahs and to live in them for 7 days, to remember what Israel went through and when they lived in these, right? But if you go through the rest of the Torah, and you go through Exodus, and over and over and over, it never mentions the word sukkah again. It only mentions sukkah on the first night. The rest of the time, it says they lived in what? Tents. Even when the Balaam was like looking over the tents of Israel and he created the blessing. Blessed are the tents of Israel and the tents of Jacob and how orderly you are. Over and over and over, we see these tents that are made, but we never see the word booths or sukkah used except for this one night. And so as I was thinking about this, I was like, is that true? And so I read through a bunch of different things and trying to figure this out. And then it reminded me of verse 33. What did verse 43 say again?
43 says, so your descendants will know that I had Israelites live in temporary shelters when I brought them out of Egypt. I am the Lord God.
There's a key word in there. Do we remember what it is?
Brought out?
Close? Very close. When?
When?
To remind you when. This is, I think, the point of this passage and this idea of why we celebrate what we do. Because Sukkah is less about the fact that these people dwelt in this Sukkah as it is about when they dwelt in the Sukkah. I have a video clip that I know Walt is going to love because it was his favorite. And so I want to show this just for a second. Close. Oh, we have no sound?
It was theoretically working.
Wait, start over.
Why isn't it working?
We got no sound. Grant, you're a Star Trek guy? All right, perfect. So you know what happens here? What is he saying? Say it. Say the monologue. Do you know it? Star Trek Enterprise. And to bowling, man, give this guy a hand. That was perfect. Yes, right there. To boldly go where no man has gone before. That was awesome. Star Trek, right? Some people, oh, we skipped ahead. Some people hate Star Trek. Some people grew up with Star Trek. You know, I was watching Star Trek, on the TV when it first came out in the episodes, right? And it was one of those things that has always enamored me. And there was some really bad movies that came out in the 90s. I was like, oh, this is terrible, or late 80s. But the latest ones that have come out, I loved. I loved Chris Pine. I love how they redid some of the characters and some of the things. But one of the things that has always stuck with me is the mission to explore, to seek out new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. There's something alluring, something adventurous to that statement, this idea of going somewhere where nobody has gone before. And I think that's the appeal for so many people that want to watch that. The problem with that statement is that it's not reality for so many people. The reality for people is that most human beings, to think about going into the unknown makes people feel what? Fearful, uncomfortable, what else? Scared. Anything else? Like, you're going to go into the unknown. How many people are willing to sign up for that?
Me?
You might be, and that would be percentage pretty close. So think about this. Last week I said, Israel and Egypt went through this massive experience with God intervening with these 10 plagues. And now it's time for freedom. It's time to leave slavery. And I said, how many people went? What? 80% of the people stayed. Estimates. Historical scholars, many have agreed on this, right? It's not just one crazy kook who said, right? There isn't, but there's different pieces of evidence, just like scholars put together evidence. But even if it's 60%, even if it's 50%, why didn't they leave? There's another great movie. You might like this one, Walt, Braveheart, right? Has everybody seen Braveheart? Okay. I didn't prove the clip because the clip is long. But that explains a lot, doesn't it? He was way down there, yes. He was in a submarine with no lights and a bunch of men in a tight space. Yes, we understand, Walt. Okay. In Braveheart, you guys have seen Braveheart? Josh, Nate, you guys have seen Braveheart? Rustin, have you seen Braveheart? Okay. We've got to educate. Have you seen Braveheart? Let's just end this sermon. Let's just go. There is a great scene.
Are you going to play it?
I should now, but I don't have time. There's a great scene. Let me just give you the context. Yes. Okay. All right, so if you can remember, there's a scene where Mel Gibson brings the Scottish army out. There's a whole bunch of people, he didn't bring it out. There's a whole bunch of Scots out that are going up against England. And England shows up with all of its forces, all of its horses, all of these men. And the soldiers that are there see this massive army and they do what? You remember? They're ready to walk away. They're like, this is too much, too big. We will never win. All of a sudden, Braveheart shows up. Mel Gibson shows up. William Wallace, and he talks to the troops. And he's like, where are you guys going? And they're like, look at the people we're going to fight against. He's like, why are you leaving? Because they're massive. There's no way we can win this battle. And he says, why would you leave? Wait a second, I have it written down here. Because now I'm all distracted. William asks them. William rolls up, and the men see the enemy, and what do they start doing? They start to walk away. They start to be afraid. And William asks them, are you willing to fight for what you believe in? And they say what? No. They say no to him at first. They say, no, we will run and we will live. If they go into battle, more than likely they could die. So as I was thinking about that, as a slave, as horrible as it is it more believable to think, if I stay here, at least I know where I'm going to sleep and where I'm going to eat. But if I go out there, if I go into battle, if I leave Egypt, if I go out into the desert, I don't know what is waiting for me out there. How many people would much rather stay with what's comfortable? Even if it's hard, even if it's slavery, even if it's, psychologically brutal for you. How many women stay in abusive marriages because leaving that abuse is unknown to them? How often do people stay in their sin or their muck or their mire and keep doing the same things and not wanting to change because if I change, I don't know what that actually means.
Here's the percentage of slaves in America that stay on plantation after they free.
Right.
Often took the last days of the summer.
We love to talk about freedom. We love to talk about Passover and freedom. We love the Braveheart scene. Freedom. We love these scenes. They inspire us. But the reality is most people don't go in that direction. Exodus 12:37. This is the Exodus. They are leaving. And this is the part where the first night. Exodus 12, verse 37. Went too far. Exodus 12:37 says this. And the children of Israel set out from Ramesses to Sukkot, about 600 about 600,000 men on foot besides the little ones. And they went from Ramesses to where? They went to Sukkot. Right? I thought they were celebrating the thing because that's what they built. Are we celebrating this because that's what they built, or is it because that's where they ended up? Or is the name of the place called Sukkot because that's what they built? They left Ramesses, which was what? Egypt, which was all of this magnificent stuff in Egypt, and they went to this place called later Sukkot, or before Sukkot. And they built these things, these shanty little town. And why build a Sukkot? Because you're in the desert, you have animals, you have people, you need what? What are the two basic things that all human beings need? Food and shelter, right? So we're in the desert now. What do we have to build for us and our animals? Shelter to protect us. Verse 40 says this. And the sojourn of the children of Israel who lived in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to be at the end of 430 years, on that same day, it came to be that all the divisions of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh went out from the land of Egypt. So they left Ramesses. They stopped and built Sukkot. Why tell us how long they've been there? Why throw this weird fact? I mean, are we talking about a sukkah? Are we talking about the animals? Are we talking about where they're going, this bold new adventure? Why then go back to the past and tell us how long they've been there? A lot does happen in 430 years.
It started with Jacob's son, and so those sons, families, and the tribes have grown exponentially.
Yeah?
But then on top of that, they've forgotten about.
Have they been alive the whole 430 years? No. Okay. That could come back again, yes, and we see it multiple times. What did you say? You've got to know where you've come from. Okay. Let me ask you this then. We've talked about schema, right? You guys remember the schema? Your paradigm, your worldview. Where does that come from? Does it not come from your previous experiences? The things that you learned growing up, your family, your teachers, your priests, your pastors. Your schema is developed by all this thing. Your schema is the way that you see the world, the way that you see life, the way that you see your life. So how long have they been in Egypt, these people? All of their lives, since they were children. What have they heard the entire time that they were in Egypt? What? I'm sorry? That's what they've heard? What have they heard from all the people around them growing up? You're worthless. You're scum. We should have killed you like the other babies. You're never going to be good enough. You'll never succeed. God doesn't love you. There is no God. This is your life, and you'll never be successful. Just get used to it. You're never going to be getting married. You're never going to be good looking enough. You're never going to be good enough at anything. You are worthless. For how many years have they heard this? For 430 years, their people have heard this. So what is their view of life? What is your paradigm? What does your schema tell you if this is all you've heard all of your life? And now somebody says, you can be free of all this. How many people actually follow through with that? How many people actually say, I'm willing to go and change my life to be free so that I can get rid of all of this baggage, as opposed to the baggage telling you this will never happen to you? You can think about being free, but you never will be because you're not good enough. You'll never amount to anything. When you find yourself in a situation think about how the brain works. When you find yourself in a situation where you've never experienced this, you don't know what the situation or what decision to make because what step do I go forward? I've never experienced what I'm experiencing right now. What does your brain naturally do? It always goes back to the old experiences that you've had and tries to figure out a decision. And if all of the decisions that you've always made for your entire life have always been based on you're not good enough, what decision will you make? Now continue to imagine. You've had this mountaintop experience. You've seen God do all of these miraculous things. You've been one of the ones who said, I want to go, I want to be free. You've left Egypt, you've left all of that garbage behind, and now the first night you are in the desert. You're in this little hut of a thing. Yeah, I've left Egypt, I've left my slavery, I left all this. But now I'm in with the animals. And I'm looking at this shanty little thing, wondering, what have I done? I have a couple palm branches above my head for protection. I have this pieces of wood around me that me and the goats sleep in. What have I done? We don't have a map. We don't know where we're going. We don't know where we're going to get food. We don't know where we're going to get water from. And I'm staring in the stars in the dark of the night thinking, what? Did I make the right decision? Did I do the right things? In my position, I've been able to counsel many people over the years. And I've had several conversations with some people that I've talked to that have had this exact same feeling. People who come from a background of trauma, who come from a background of their family or their friends or people telling them, you're not going to be successful, you're not good enough, you're a failure, you'll never make it, you can never do anything. You have trauma constantly in your life from maybe divorce or separation or death or loss, all of these things that create these emotional feelings in you that will remind you that you are not good enough. And for some reason, when we get ourselves into these situations, we do the same thing. We self-sabotage. Instead of believing, yes, I can continue to move forward and my path is I'm trusting and just going to move forward, we remind ourselves, oh yeah, I'm not good enough. Why am I even doing this? Why do I think that I could actually step outside of this box and do something good? I'm really not good enough. I should just sabotage my decisions to just prove that, you know what, that's right. But for some reason, God has opened up these doors. For some reason, God has done something in your life to open your eyes to see something else. And Passover, if we remember, is this idea that we are to celebrate freedom with food and wine. And literally exactly 6 months on the calendar later is when we celebrate this celebration of Sukkot. It's almost as if God is reminding us twice in a year. One time we celebrate our freedom with food and wine, and one time we celebrate our freedom from that first night. Because that first night, what does it actually take? It takes this idea that we all struggle with. But when we are in that place of fear and panic, it is in this spot that I look up into the stars and I see, you know all of my fears at this point. You know all of my junk. You know all of my judgment. You know all of the things that hold me back. But I am trusting in you. I have faith that you will protect me because I know this won't. I have faith that you will guide me, that you will be the one who protects me. And even though I might not have much, I know that I have you. And think about that. Is that not what faith and trust really is? Is faith and trust not this idea of being absolutely vulnerable with God and saying, I can't do this on my own? Look what I built. I built this shack. That's all that I can do. But this isn't going to do anything for me for long term. So I am going to trust you with everything. I am going to open myself up, and I am absolutely vulnerable at this point because I know without you I have nothing. And I think as we celebrate these holidays every single year, these holy days, I think we are supposed to be reminded of a few questions. One, am I completely vulnerable with God? Or do I live with walls? Am I vulnerable with God, or do I have a shell around me that separates me from God? Because I don't want God to know the things that I can't actually do. I don't want God to know that I am actually in pain from the trauma of my previous life, whether it be loss or family or abuse, whatever it is. I still am trying to hide that from God. But maybe I need to go back into the Sukkot and recognize that I can't hide that. And that I need to be vulnerable. The next question is, do I trust him completely? Or do I rely on my own false sense of control? How many of us struggle with wanting control in every aspect of our life? Wanting to know that I can make the right decision and I can choose the right thing because of all the things that I know. And if I can make the right decisions, I can control everything that happens to me. Until you realize you can't control everything. Do I trust him completely? My third question is my faith an act of love, or do I just go through the motions? Are you truly willing to love God with complete vulnerability? Or do you just go to church? Do you just sing because you have to? Do you just say that you are a Christian because that's the right thing to do? Or do you actually do it because you truly believe? I think the Sukkah is to remind us constantly of who we are, where we came from, and who we're with. This is a great little shack. Temporary. but a reminder of where we come from. Each and every one of us has baggage, trauma, those negative reminders telling us you are not good enough. And I think that's what Sukkot is to remind us. That is in the past. But God is carrying us and guiding us into the future. And as we sit in the Sukkah, that we are to have faith and trust completely in Him. Are we willing to do that? Alex, pray us out, please.
Father, for the sake and just breath in our lungs this morning.